On to our next story now. The New York Times has done it again. The American newspaper's latest article on the Pulwama terror attack is an example of how Western media misleads readers and tries to influence the narrative about India. The headline described the Pulwama terror attack, which killed 40 Central Reserve Police Force men, as an explosion. It said, in India's election season, an explosion interrupts Modi's slump. Indians worldwide called out the newspaper for its biased writing and said that the article is actually an unsubstantiated opinion piece rather than a factual report. The online outrage finally forced the New York Times to change the headline. The word explosion was then replaced with the word bombing. This is not the first time that the New York Times has spun stories against India. An article on the dogfight between Indian and Pakistani warplanes on the March the 3rd had come under sharp criticism. The article questioned India's capability of waging war following the aerial clash between India and Pakistan. Most importantly, the article left out the fact that an Indian Air Force MiG-21 Bison shot down a US-manufactured F-16. Wion's political editor Kartikeya Sharma spoke to BJP General Secretary Madhav on international media's biased narratives towards India and the government. Let's listen in.
Do you think that international media treated Narendra Modi's Balakot surgical strike unfairly?
Not that we care about it, not that we care for their criticism, but yes, not just Balakot, not just the recent terror thing. The general tenor of the international media has been, over the last 3-4 years, has been largely negative. Great achievements of this government also have always been projected or sought to be projected in a very negative and poor manner. I probably think that, the caliber of the reporter who is reporting from the spot, it also matters in any given report. But as I said, it's okay press is an independent institution. Let them do their job. But just as press is independent, we are also independent political entity. We go to the people with our work.
It was not just the New York Times headline that was misleading. It turns out that the entire article is devoid of facts, poorly researched and reported. Here's why the article is factually inaccurate. Let's take a look at the first example. The article says that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's biggest vulnerability is the economy. The New York Times says that India's economy grew 6.6% in the most recent quarter and called it the slowest rate in 5 years. That is not true. The slowest rate in 5 years was 5.7% in the first quarter of 2017. Next, India was referred to India's economy growth as quote-unquote faster than most developed countries. India is the fastest growing large economy and is growing faster than all and not most developed countries. Thirdly, the article claims farmers are quote-unquote furious with PM Modi. The article says, and I quote, he had promised to ensure that farmers received prices high enough to make a profit, but for export, controls and overproduction have cut deeply into prices for crops like onions and potatoes, unquote. The New York Times, therefore, conveniently ignores proactive measures for the farm sector, such as minimum support price at 1.5 times the input cost and the 6,000 rupees directly credited into the bank accounts of nearly 120 million small farmers. Lastly, the article directly claims, without any facts, figures or numbers, that hate crimes against Dalits have exploded. In this case, isolated incidents are being painted as widespread alienation of certain groups. In the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir, 152 young men have joined the Indian Army at the passing out parade held in the summer capital, Srinagar. Belonging to different parts of the state, these men have joined the mainstream to fight Pakistan's sponsored terror. Here's a report.
These are the youth of Jammu and Kashmir. In olive uniform, they are now part of the Indian Army. They have joined the Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry. Most of the recruits hail from Jammu, Kashmir and the Ladakh regions of the state. This parade marks their induction into the army. Less than a month after the Pulwama suicide attack, these 152 youths have made the cut. At the time of the attack itself, they were still undergoing the intensive one-year training. They say that they want to live their life guarding and defending the borders of Jammu and Kashmir. These young soldiers are seen as an inspiration by many. Aged between 20 and 25, they hail from the frontier districts of the state where shelling from neighboring Pakistan is common.
मेरे घर वालों का बचपन से ये सपना था कि मैं फ़ौज में जाना चाहिए। मेरे फादर आर्मी में थे, मेरे फादर की डेथ हो गई थी, तो उसके बाद मेरा सपना था कि मैं फादर की जगह पे जाऊं और इंडियन आर्मी ज्वाइन करूं। मैंने इंडियन आर्मी ज्वाइन किया। मेरी फैमिली आई है, बहुत ज़्यादा खुश है, बहुत ज़्यादा एक्साइटेड है कि उनका जो सपना था वो आज मैंने पूरा किया। मैं इंडियन आर्मी ज्वाइन की।
Imbued with the idealism of dedicating their lives to the service of the nation, these young soldiers are seen as an inspiration by many. Marching in precise unison, their voice echoes far from this place. The Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry was started in 1947. It has participated in many wars, including the Sino-Indian War of 1962. In 1984, this unit was deployed on the Siachen Glacier as part of Operation Meghdoot. And the infantry's new members have already braved the threats of terrorists. Some of them even hail from South Kashmir, where terrorism is at its peak. The families of these young soldiers are jubilant, and most of the newly inducted soldiers have been inspired by their families which served the army in the early 70s and 80s.
मेरे फादर भी इंडियन आर्मी में थे, तो मैं वहाँ से ही मोटिवेशन मुझे मिला। मैं नहीं चाहता था कि भी मैं कभी साइड में बैठ कर कहीं पर सिकुड़ कर रहूँ कहीं पर, तो इसलिए मैंने सोचा कि इंडियन आर्मी में ही है जो अपने सीना तान कर हम कहीं पर खड़े हो जाते हैं। और ये मैंने जैकलाई ज्वाइन की, जिसमें कि हमारे तमाम जितने भी हमारे रिलीजन है सारे इकट्ठे होकर रहते हैं, हिंदू सिख सब हम इकट्ठे रहते हैं।
Behind me are these Indian Army Jawans of the Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry Division who are being recruited in the Indian Army at the time when the border tension is high. These are swearing on the Constitution, saying that they are going to join and serve the nation. These are the people of Jammu and also Kashmir region which form the Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry Division. They have been manning the borders, not only the borders, they have been deployed at several locations, several key locations across Jammu and Kashmir. Once again, 152 Jawans joining from Jammu and Kashmir into the Indian Army. With cameraman Ferozi Sharmani for Wion World is One.